Battleline Podcast, really excited to have a great guest coming on this episode, especially with the fact that we really don't talk to a lot of Vietnam guys.
Yeah.
So it's an honor. And for the new listeners, I'm Ian Scotto.
I am Tonto.
And every week on this show, we cover what's going on a little bit in the special operations military community downrange, and also interview special guests. I know oftentimes people see who we have on and they want us to get right to the interview. But this show is basically a hangout. We do more than just interviews. And for the people who've been on board for a while, they kind of get used to our style. But we need to have
a better intro too. We need to get something where you and I mean, we do so well, but the intro's missing something. We'll figure it out though. We're going to
but our actual intro, the Jimmy Allen intro.
Well, the Jimmy Allen and then Debbie Rashawn. You got to have the sexy voice and the cool guitar. I mean, Jimmy Allen's the man. But you and I, when we introduce each other, we got to figure out a shtick. I'll delve into my old 1960s stuff, and we'll see if I can find some old school stuff. We definitely do.
We'll do it, man. But I always like to get the new listeners on board to just who we are and what we do, because I always keep in mind there's new people listening every week. So with that, though, the CBD market has become extremely saturated over the last few years. It actually seems like you can buy CBD in almost every coffee shop or grocery store. And here's the thing. I spoke about this on a more recent episode. Actually, it was probably a while back, but it's just the truth. Many of the CBD companies out there actually source their hemp from industrial farms in China. So please be careful what you buy when it comes to CBD, because there's really no regulations over there. And people go on these sites, whether it's Alibaba or something, and buy it extremely cheap. And you really don't know what you're putting in your body. So be careful with that. And that's why we have always gone with Ned, because they're USDA certified organic and extracted from USDA certified organic hemp plants from beautiful Paonia, Colorado. And these products are science-backed, nature-based solutions that offer an alternative to prescription and over-the-counter drugs. Now, they have an incredible new product, which is their Distress Blend. This 1-1 formula of CBD and CBG is made from the world's purest full-spectrum hemp, and it's also USDA certified organic. It contains CBG, which is known as the mother of all cannabinoids because of how effective it is at combating anxiety and stress by inhibiting the reuptake of GABA, the neurotransmitter responsible for stress regulation. They have full transparency. Ned shares third-party lab reports, who farms their products, and their extraction process, all right there on their site. And Ned's CBD products have over 2,000 five-star reviews, and they work with some incredible people in the medical field, like Dr. Caroline Leaf, Dr. Christian Gonzalez, and Dr. Will Cole. So everything they do is backed by science. And speaking of science, I spoke about this recently. I think it was Chris Dykos who told me about it first, but there's some very reputable studies being done, not making any claims here, but just you could look at them, that CBD and cannabinoids are actually helping in combating COVID-19. So it's just something to look at. Like I said, I don't like to make any wild claims, but these are very reputable studies and you could look into them. And we would suggest you do. So if you'd like to give Ned a try, Battleline listeners get 15% off Ned products with the code Battleline. Visit helloned.com/Battleline to get access. That's HELLONED.com/Battleline to get 15% off. So many of our listeners have become regular users of Ned, something they use every day. So if you haven't done it already.
And we are too. So you guys know
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, we're not, Ian gives all that information out, which is great, but bottom line is it works. And Ian and I I'm on monthly subscriber, and I'm telling you what, that CBD oil, it helps with the stress, but as having inflammatory bowel disease, and I preach this, guys, because I know a lot of you guys out there do, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, so forth, that anti-inflammatory knocks that stuff out. And again, you still have to have a good diet, have to take care of yourself, but it is an addition to help you control your Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, along with the light anti-inflammatory medication that you may be prescribed, so you don't have to get on prednisone. Guys, the stuff works. Period. Bottom line. So you'd be dumb not to check out Ned and at least give it a shot.
I echo all of that, guys. So helloned.com/battleline. Thank you, Ned, for sponsoring the show and offering our listeners a natural remedy for some of life's most common health issues. Now, here's the thing. We have some great sponsors on board. We're usually talking about great products that are on the market, great services to check out. But this is actually the first sponsor I could think of that is possibly a great business opportunity for you guys looking to get into executive protection. And I'm sure you hear, Chris, all the time, people wondering where to start. And especially in this economy, it's hard to find just great job opportunities. And that's exactly what this is if you have the skills needed to do so. So Rescore Group is a new executive protection company based out of Silicon Valley that is quickly becoming one of the most premier security agencies for ultra high net worth families, with the founders understanding industry shortcomings. With over 30 years in the industry, they put strong focus on medical capabilities and taking preventative measures to keep people safe no matter where they go in the world through a complex risk-based approach. They're now operating in California, Texas, and Central America. Rescore is expanding quick, and they're looking for qualified agents that have sound emotional intelligence to join the team. If you are a military or law enforcement veteran, or if you have an active EMT certification, they would love to talk to you. With EMT being a prerequisite, Rescore can certify the right candidates internally under its medical direction before turning you operational. So if you're looking to start a career in executive protection, Rescore puts on elite courses through its training arm, Red Cell, specializing mainly in its covert protection course. Red Cell also provides courses on executive protection, residential security, and medical courses like tactical casualty care. I'm sure this is totally in the realm of a lot of you guys listening. So I'm going to give you the info that you need to get involved in this. Check these guys out at rescoregroup.com. That's RESCOR group.com. The info is going to be right there in the description, or you could actually contact the CEO directly, which is Wayne DaCosta, and you can just go through his LinkedIn. That's Wayne, DeCoste. You'll see him under Rescore Groups, and their motto is a new era in protection, which is them telling the industry they're here to raise the bar, train to a standard, and be elite as a veteran-owned company that takes care of its own. So this is just an awesome opportunity to get involved. Once again, guys, rescoregroup.com, or check out the CEO, Wayne DaCosta, right now on LinkedIn. With that, let's go.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline Podcast.
The switch is on. Battleline Podcast. Very excited to have Willard F. Parish coming on, Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame recipient and a Silver Star recipient for valor. But I know that before we get into that, Chris, we wanted to talk about the Ukraine-Russia situation, and I know you had a lot on your mind regarding that.
I just point people out to, because I don't pay attention to the news a ton, but I have been driving a ton, speaking the last 3 weeks, driving to Ohio back and forth to some tremendous conferences I've had the pleasure of speaking at. So, it doesn't matter how much you try to not listen to things, stuff pops up on the radio, and I wish I could listen to country music the whole time, but I fall asleep. So I have to listen to something else. And yeah, it is. It's a big issue to me because I not because of I don't get into the border thing. Hey, you can secure the border. Yeah, we do need to secure borders, of course. But how guys are tying that in. Well, you're sending troops to Ukraine to secure their borders. You're not sending to secure our borders. We can get that argument will be going on until the days we die, guys. It really will be. My thing is with Afghanistan, with the troops that you have available, because that still is near and dear to my heart. And what we did over there, again, Ian and I both agree was an immense failure. And for me, having spent a lot of time over there, it was hurting to see us pull out the way we did. But gosh dang, having all these troops available now to be on standby, where were they when we were moving out of Afghanistan? Which is how it should have been done. Why weren't they sent over there? And it's just another pointing out of where the military is not utilized correctly by our U.S. government, and it's utilized for political purposes. I know that. I was a huge part of that for, 10 years, at least overseas, plus the other 8 I spent in country, in the United States just training. So I just want people to see that. You can see it. So when you go to the polls and you do vote, if you vote, you have to take that into account, because that messes up thousands and thousands of veterans' psyches. It really does. Now, yes, we sign up to do what we do. We enjoy it. We go over there, or we want to be with our brothers. But we also do depend on our leaders up in D.C. to do the right thing. And obviously they don't. So it's just another precursor. Hey, another pointing out, another validation that they really, for the most part, and not everyone up there. We have had some good commanders here and there, but for the most part, it's all political. So if you are signing up for the military, I would never say no. I would never tell my son no. But be wary what you're getting into. I did a post just yesterday, I think it was, and this is what made me think about it. It was, we used to go over because we thought we were doing it for something bigger than ourselves. And that was because we thought what I'm talking about is patriotism. We're going over there. We're defending our country. We're defending a democracy from terrorism. God, that's gone, guys. It really is. And it's no shock that our I use this term loosely, our president, is now sending troops over to an area that was a huge issue and a thorn in his side during the political elections, during the presidential elections, because of money and where money was changing hands. Is that a shock at all that troops are going over there now or on standby when we could have used those troops to really do what we should have done, and that's leave Afghanistan correctly and not leave people behind. So that was my thing. Yeah, I didn't want to get into the politics of it, just more of the human side of it. And that, our U.S. government, our leaders, we got to elect these people better than what we are. And I'm not going to get on the Trump train either and say, well, Trump would have done it right. I don't know. My dad used to say, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle, which means it makes no sense. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. So I'm not going to say that was a deal, but it really bothers me as a veteran and somebody that served and been part of these things and been part of where I thought was patriotism, but also been part of where we were just destabilizing nations for political purposes, So, so you guys thinking about joining, it's honorable. Do it, man. But know what you're getting into before you jump in feet first. And if you're going to go do it, I always tell people, do what you want to do the job that you want to do in the military. Family members, be supportive. Moms and dads, be supportive. But if you really want to get into that, where you're on the grindstone at the front lines, you got to go and where you're going with special ops guys, because those are the ones that really want to be. They're not in there for college money. They're in there because they want to be there. And you find, as you've listened to our podcast, you find all different types of people that join the special operations community. It's not just a bunch of alpha males banging their heads against the wall. You got actually smart kids like Chris Dykos that we had on, that's extremely intelligent. And then Jack Murphy, of course, who's extremely intelligent. Then
I think almost all of them are, for the most part. I feel like a lot of the SF guys I've talked to and Army Rangers are all. Marty Scoveland, extremely smart guy.
Brilliant, and we have our own ideals, and it's not all. I think there's a stereotype that we're all conservative right wingers say us. We are what we are at the time that we are. We are sometimes, and then sometimes we're not, and sometimes we're. But that's the beauty of special operations. It does generate free thinkers. Yes, we know how to take orders, but we also know how to delegate responsibility. We also know how to take that delegation so we can think openly if we get in a situation, because when the situation dictates that you have to survive, you can't get locked down on one way. You have to be able to think and get your mind open. And that's the beauty of what I thought the beauty of combat was, is whenever those things started happening. The bullets started flying, explosions going off, or you were under just a serious, stressful situation. I loved it because my mind could just slow down, and I would equate it to a racehorse with the blinders on. The blinders would come off, and you're that racehorse, and you're like, holy crap, I can see everything. And it's hard to get that anymore. So it was beautiful. I get chills thinking about it because it was just so awesome to live part of your life seeing everything in that magnification, and it's slowing way down, even though things are going crazy. You hear people say when they're under duress, oh man, time was going fast. I couldn't, it seemed, I couldn't pay attention to what was going on. It was happening so fast. For most men and women, guys, again, guys, our gender neutral term on the Battleline Podcast, that's part of the definition. Guys, you'll hear most of them say, no, it slowed way down. It slowed down, and I could see everything. And that's from training. That's from that's from being with good guys, and you're having faith in the people next to you. But it's also just because we're able to handle that stress and that duress, and it's gorgeous, man. It just is so gorgeous. Colors, everything just pop. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole now. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to join, know what you're getting into. Let's circle back before we head to the another topic we're going to discuss. If you're going to join, know what you're getting into. Mom and dad's support, still an honorable occupation. The ebb and flows of leadership in the military go up and down. You have great ones. We have terrible ones right now. I don't think right now they're terrible. I'll just put it plain and simple. But it always fluctuates. It's up and down every year, every decade. We have that. No big deal. But also, just if you're going to go all the way, go all the way, and go to the SEALs, go to the Rangers, go to the PJs, go to Task Force 160th, go to the Raiders, the Force Recon guys, MARSOC. Do that, and then if you do ever get in combat, you're with people that want to be there with you, and they have your back. And to be honest with you, you're the safest there than you are with a unit that says, hey, we're never going to go. And then they show up in Iraq for a year doing a job they're not trained for. So there's my 2 cents, but I'll leave that alone. 2 cents. That's it.
Yeah. Do you think we should be involved in this Ukraine-Russia dispute at all? What do you think?
That's I don't think militarily we should. That's all political. Hey, you guys, politically, you guys need to figure that crap out. But it seems like we always have a Russia-Ukraine thing every presidency. Something goes on there. But having troops to go, it's because NATO wants us there, really? No, I don't think so at all. This is a political mess that, and that's why as politicians, presidents and so forth, you do have to show strength. Remember we talked about it when we talked about the drones from Iran hit BIAP, hit the airport. They are testing to see our political resolve. Now, having troops on standby, hey, we're going to go help it. I think we're already been defeated, right, guys? We're already on the negative side. We're on the downhill slope. They're not testing us anymore. They know that they're not going to do anything. Now we're at a cusp where we're going to have to call their bluff, and now we have to send troops in, and there's World War III going on. I mean, that's the possibility of what could happen in Russia and Ukraine. That is,
although I would say we hear that every couple of years. We do hear this is going to be World War III, and it's yet to happen.
And it's yet to happen. But with Russia, if it got to that point where we have to send troops out, we've put ourselves between a rock and a hard place. So maybe let me think about that answer give me 1 second. Yeah, I don't want to send troops. Let me put it this way. I don't want to send troops over there. I don't. No. Troops, we should have used those in Afghanistan, get our people out, be fine. We would have showed strength, and I don't think we would be at this position now. But since we're at this position now, I still don't think we should send troops over there. But yes, getting them ready for something that may come down the pipe, yeah, you have to. So troops, no involvement, don't send them over there, but have them ready to go like they are doing. They have to. I mean, you don't have a choice. You have to. And 8,500 troops versus 150,000. No, I think you'd probably need to have more troops ready than that. And I'm sure they are. I'm sure the special operations community is fucking balls to the wall right now, working with guys. And so what are all our aviation assets and so forth? So, yeah, I guess, Ian, my question, if you asked me that question now, the way I answered it, I would say, see, and that's the beauty of the show. I have no problem changing my answer right here. I would say, yeah, not necessarily on the ground there, guarding the border, but you have to have them on standby. And we do have, we have huge bases in Germany. So we really do have troops already over there, if you want to think about it.
That's true.
But you're right. You're right. We always is World War III. And like I said, we always have a Russia-Ukraine thing going on every presidency.
Oh, yeah. It's just something you hear all the time.
Yeah, you're right.
This is going to be World War III. And I think some of that is like the hyperbolic news headlines of just everything has to be bigger than it is.
Well, it's clickbait. It's clickbate.
Of course.
Hey, come on. We know about clickbait. We do that every once in a while here, too. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Actually, like just about 2 years ago exactly, when we had Dale Comstock on and we had the who was it again? And I'm losing, I don't have this. I'm losing my train of thought. The thing that they called this targeted assassination. We talked about this 2 episodes ago.
I can't even remember.
Not Khomeini. Not what was his name again? Holy
crap! I can't remember. I can't remember either. Oh, we are getting old. Senility. Is there a senility sponsor out there that we can have that helps my old butt remember things? Come on, we need a sponsor.
But I wasn't prepared to talk about this. That's why Qassam Soleimani. But I remember after the killing of Soleimani, there were people right in the media saying this is going to be World War III. Yeah. But it's something you just hear all the time, and it's like, all right, maybe take it down a notch because not everything needs to be World War III.
And you're right. You're exactly right. I just always think when the Russians, and this is me from my just military, Russians, they don't play, dude. and they have got the Iranians and the Chinese on that's their team. There's their team right there. And that's a pretty formidable team. We've let them become a pretty formidable team. We've let them get back in the fight. And they're pushing the envelope with the strikes, the Iranian drone strikes, the Iranian rockets to the U.S. embassies in Baghdad. Now we got Russia pushing on. China is, throwing viruses out there. Guy, I don't ever want to see a war. People that have seen wars, we don't want that. But damn, man, I hope it's overblown. But I hope this politically, there is some strength within our White House to quell this, to stop this. But I did hear something from the Ukrainian prime minister also downplaying it. And I don't know if downplaying it, but maybe I like the way they were handling with their people. He's like, hey, don't panic, be prepared, but that was awesome. The way the Ukrainian prime minister and their political party was handling it within their own country. I mean, can you imagine? Me, I don't know, you don't have kids, but me telling my kids, yeah, we may get attacked and overrun. And this is what we need to be prepared for, guys. Can you imagine me telling my 6-year-old that? Or, hey, this is where we need to go. If you hear bullets and bombs, here's how to shoot a gun. And they're doing that now in Ukraine to be prepared. But he also is saying, don't panic. Don't panic. No need to panic. We're not at that stage yet. We're working on a diplomatic solution, but prepare yourself.
Well, with that, we're going to get over to Willard F. Parish. Really excited to have him on. But before we do, I got a chance over at SHOT Show to hang with the guys at Fort Scott Munitions. Such a great team of people over there. And for those who don't know, I mean, if you've been listening for a while, you know that they've been on board with us since pretty much the beginning. They are a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states. Just go to the dealer locator on their website, fortscottmunitions.com, and you're going to be able to put in your zip code and find a dealer near you. Use our exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order, only available to listeners of the Battleline Podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. FortScottMunitions.com, FortScottMunitions.com, promo code Battleline. Also, over at SHOT Show was the team at Photonis. Great guys, great team of people, because not only do they have former CIA guys like Phil Otto, there were also SEALs over there, and all of them truly could not speak more highly of what Photonis is doing. They're the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high-quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and outdoor enthusiasts rely on Photonis defense systems to make their adventures safer and more successful. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Photonis Defense is now offering state-of-the-art night vision systems, from the PD Pro B 16mm binocular to the PD Pro M 16mm monocular to the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Customers from all over are excited about these new, smaller, lighter NVGs. You've got to see these things to really experience how much smaller and lighter they are than anything else you've used previously. People at SHOT Show got to demo this stuff, and they were blown away. And I also had guys who were at SHOT Show, like John Bartolo, who was on Instagram, saying there's got to be like a night vision dealer on the floor who could do a demo of what the capability is of this
and
stuff.
They did.
The thing is, I was going to say there's so much stuff on the floor that people don't see everything. And I told them, go to Photonis Defense's booth, because they have everything.
And they have that you're able to put the top of the line that there is right now, as far as the Gen 3s and against their PD Pros. And, I don't know if you did too, but I got to walk in the back room, where it's all blacked out and you put both on. Yeah. And I knew they were good. But really, when you see them the old new against the new, and you see them together, and you get to use one and one, and then try the other and try the Photonis ones, it is literally, really figurative and literally night and day. That you can, how detailed and how just bright and how lighter they are and smaller, but you're still getting the same field of vision, same focus, same wide range of vision that you do with based on whatever optic you're wearing, whether it's a bino optic or whether it's those we call them the four bangers, where you've got your peripheral vision. But it's night and day. There's nothing even close to Photonis Defense out there right now. They are setting the standard of what all you night vision people need to reach. So, man, and if people are going to be better than Photonis, you're basically going to be able to see daytime at night if you can even get better to what they are, because that's really where they're at right now with their white phosphorus night vision optics they have. So, guys, if you're out there, they're military grade, obviously. If you're law enforcement, military, and you have a budget right now that you're looking for new night vision equipment, try them, look at them, consider them, and I guarantee even if you do that, you're gonna bring them on. And they're the best out there. And all you guys that train out there, if you're holding night vision courses, I would recommend to get a set so you can show people, like, this is what night vision is. And the hunters are using it more and more, especially coyote hunters, where we do have a coyote problem out here in the Midwest. So definitely, guys, if you're a hunter out there, check them out. And you're going to love them. But Photonis Defense, they're the best in the military, and law enforcement needs to pick these guys up. Every tactical team out there needs to have some set of Photonis Defense PD Pros out there, night vision goggles out there that they use. Tremendous. I was blown away at SHOT Shows. It was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we spoke about last episode how some people say the technology hasn't come as far as they'd like to see in the firearms industry. With night vision, you really can't dispute that in the past several years, it has been, as you said, night and day. So visit them, photonisdefense.com, PHOTONIS defense.com. The link is right there in the description for more information, or look for Photonis Defense product options from your night vision dealer. So joining us for the first time on Battleline Podcast, and as Willard was saying, Mr. Parish, or I should say, was saying before we brought him on, this is the first podcast he's ever done, which is truly an honor.
Yeah.
So Willard F. Parish, Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame recipient, awarded the Silver Star for Valor, U.S. Army combat veteran of Vietnam, serving as Specialist 4 for Company C, 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry, 1st Cavalry Division. Just so many accolades. But we're going to get into your whole story, but I have to say it really is an honor to have you on, because there's a ton of guys from the GWAT era who are able to tell their story, and in recent wars, and I feel like there's less and less Vietnam guys out there telling what they've done, and people need to hear these stories. So it's just an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
We appreciate it. And, guys like myself that did serve in the global war on terror. And I know your story because I followed, I was part of the 2nd Ranger Battalion. And then I worked with the 3-letter agencies for a while. So, for people that don't know, Willard was part, if you don't recognize the division, but you've seen the movie, We Were Soldiers Once and Young, that's Willard's unit right there. And he was there on the ground, and this guy's a legend. I don't know any other guy that fought back the bad guys with 2 handguns, with 2 45s. How cool is it? I got to give you props on that one there, Sergeant. You got that. That is some badass, and you can cuss on this too. You're okay. Even though this is we are a faith podcast, we still got potty mouths out there. You are the shit, sir. I tell you what. So, but
it's kind of embarrassing sometimes. I don't consider myself a hero. I have trouble with that word sometimes, and I just feel like I was there. I've done my job, and hopefully I did my job well. And as Colonel Moore, General Moore, it's hard to refer to him as General. As he said, when it came down to it, you weren't fighting for mom and apple pie and American flag and all. You were fighting for this guy over on this side and this guy on this side because they were fighting for you too.
And amen.
And as far as I'm concerned, I served with a bunch of heroes.
You did. You did. I can't even imagine how it would be to serve with and actually go to combat with a leader like Colonel Moore or General Moore. I look at that like, because and then Sergeant Major Plumley. I mean, oh my gosh, who gets to go to combat with 2 legends, and then your unit became a legend within itself, especially within the special operations and the CAV community. Because you guys were the first ones to start using start using Hueys and doing the actually air assault missions that we do now, fast roping out of helicopters. That's just commonplace. You guys started that stuff.
Well, when I first got to Fort Benning, Georgia, I was in the 2nd Infantry Division, and we were out on an area. It was known as Kelly Hill.
I know it.
And
yep, I know it.
The 1st and the 23rd and the 1st and the 38th occupied Kelly Hill. Well, they had taken the old 11th Airborne and started this 11th Air Assault from that to test a helicopter concept out. Well, in the fall of '64, they were fixing to do a big testing deal on this helicopter concept against the 82nd Airborne up in South Carolina. Okay. And they were a little under strength. So since we were close to Harmony Church, where they were at, well, we got loaned out to them. And of course, we had the Indian Head patch here, had the 11th Air Assault patch here. I said, we had so many patches, we looked like clowns running around here.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But we went up there for about 3 months, and we came back to Fort Benning, and we just kind of went into hiatus, weren't really doing much of anything. And I was in 81 Mortars, and I'd asked my section sergeant, Matos, I said, well, what's going on? And he said, well, they're still evaluating this testing that we did. And he said, if it doesn't fly, we're going to go back to mechanized. And he was a little Puerto Rican, and he said, you be my driver. And I said, I ain't no way getting in. Because those PC carriers to me was nothing but a coffin on track.
But that's what a lot of guys tell me when I talk to a lot of the Vietnam veterans. Those things were just rolling death traps, is what they were.
Yeah, well, and I'm claustrophobic anyway.
Wow.
There's no at our VFW post in Bristow, we have one there, and they finally welded the door shut, but my daughters would go out there and they'd say, you want to get in there, Dad? And I said, nope, I'm not even getting in that one.
I have to agree with you there. I would much rather be up in the air above it all than on the ground driving and riding in whatever it was, whether it's armored personnel carriers or just regular vehicles out where we were at. When you were up above, I don't know. You just felt you felt not, and maybe we weren't safer, but we felt safe. We felt like we could take advantage of the situation. I'm sure you did too. Shooting from above down on somebody, you just feel more confident. You do.
Yeah, and of course you had your door gunners.
And you had your door gun. I'm running right there. So I know we're getting ahead of ourselves because I don't want to forget asking this. I did want to ask this, and since you mentioned the mortars, did you guys really have to piss on those things to cool them off? Did you during the battle when you guys were there?
Yeah, the movie kind of, It wasn't Colonel Moore, but it was an old World War II sergeant that we had.
So you were. I mean, I don't care if it's Colonel Moore or not, but did you piss? Because that's some.
Well, I didn't, because I was. The thing about it was, when we first got there that first evening, and we were told we were going to have to pull our own defensive perimeter, and I'm telling Matos, well, with what? Mortar people don't. My basic issue weapon was a 45.
Yeah.
And so when we first landed in the LZ and were pinned down most of the day, well, Bruce Crandall and his helicopter bunch guys, hey, I can't say enough about those guys, because medevac wouldn't come into a hot LZ.
They were amazing.
And Crandall and his boys seen you running with the boom guide of their chopper. They were sitting there like ducks on a pond, but they wasn't leaving anybody behind.
They were amazing. I got to meet his flying mate. I got to meet was it Too Tall?
Oh,
the Too Tall before he because he passed away. Was it last year?
Yeah.
And those guys to me were the first, what we call the Night Stalkers now, the 160th. That was that to me, and I don't know the Night Stalker lineage. I don't want to offend all you TF Brown guys out there. I'm sorry. But watching it from a ground guy, an infantry guy watching that was the first time where you saw Night Stalkers, where you saw what we see is that those guys do on a regular basis now for us. That was them. They were tremendous. So I want to make sure that part was, and I was going to get to that too. Was that accurate that Crandall and those guys, but we're just coming in under fire, continually getting guys out, bringing ammunition, because that's really that's what kept you, wasn't it? That's what really was saving you that the whole time you were there.
I'll tell you what, that if we would have lost that LZ,
done.
Well, I wouldn't be here. And I will tell you this: if it wasn't for Hal Moore, none of us would be here.
Oh, that's
that man. I can't say enough about that man either. I told somebody one time, I said, my dad is right here and Hal Moore's right there.
And they just don't make leaders like that anymore. I think every person that's going to command the troops at that level or command the army needs to study Colonel Moore or General Moore. And if they aren't, it needs to be pre-required reading to see what he did. Because I studied him before I started going over, because I thought he was just an amazing. And I did. I fell in love with the book and the movie. When I was going through my officer's course, it was required reading. We were soldiers. And I'll be honest with you, I faked it first because I didn't want to read it. I'm like, I ain't reading this. Come on, let's just go out and shoot. I'm tired of this. But then when I did read it, like, man, these guys, this is what we're going to get into when I head overseas in this global war on terror. And this is who we need to live our lives by. But I'm glad you're saying that. We'll get into more though. I want to get in, Willard, if you can. And Ian, stop me, because Ian, I get on rambling basis here. But
hey, like I said, my first trip doing this, so you'll have to kind of guide me.
We'll guide. Ian's there to guide both of us. I'm like a cat chasing a light on the wall. I just start jumping everywhere. When you first went in, Sergeant, when you started, what made you want to go in? Or you weren't drafted? I don't get that part of your story. You weren't drafted, did you? Or were you drafted?
I was drafted.
Okay, you were drafted.
I was drafted.
So what was your mindset? What was like that feeling when your number came up?
Well, at the time, I was 22 years old. I was single, and I was working on a seismograph crew, and we were just, going from one town to the next. And I'm out here chasing these little guys like a blind dog in meat markets, And I thought, well, they're just going to screw me out of 2 good years of my life, And I'll admit, when I first went in as a slip sleeve, I was there to pull my 2 years and get out. I wasn't caring about making any rank, wasn't caring about this or that, just do my 2 years and get out. And, but, you know, after going through that battle, I have a completely different perspective now for the military and the people that serve and the young men and women. I have talked to units that are going to deploy to Afghanistan and Iraq and places like this. And I feel honored to be able to go speak to them. And if I can tell anything to these young people that maybe get them back home safe. And I talked to a lot of school kids on Veterans Day to try to instill a little of that patriotism back in them. And I feel like now I am fulfilling my military obligation by doing what I do now.
That's amazing.
And like I said, I was just there to, and I know I caused Matos all kinds of trouble. But I was kind of stubborn, but I wound up being an assistant squad leader. And when we landed up there, we got separated. So I had the guys, and I don't know what happened to Sergeant Thompson, who was the squad leader. But as we were taking the wounded guys out, I knew my guys, you know, didn't have nothing. And so I was getting the M16s and the ammo of the wounded guys from Sergeant Freeman. We called him Big Daddy Freeman. He was a platoon sergeant, 3rd Platoon. And I tell people, I said, we're sitting behind these banyan trees getting shot at, but we're sitting there and I'm reading the serial number off the rifle and he's writing it down to who it belonged to and who I'm going to give it to because he had to keep records. And I'm thinking, you know, if we get overrun, those M16s are going to be laying right there.
It doesn't matter. Why were you that? I never. Why were you having to get the serial numbers? What was that all about? Because you're in battle, man. Why didn't you? I just never made any sense.
Well, I tell you what. When we first got to Vietnam, first thing we got was a little card that said the 9 rules for the occupation of Vietnam. Okay, our weapons. Like my 45, I could have rounds in my magazine. I could have my magazine in my weapon, but I couldn't chamber a round until I'd been fired upon, or it would have been a court-martial offense if they checked my weapon and I had it chambered.
Wow.
And I told Captain Edwards, my company commander, and I said, now, do you really think I'm going to stand there and let a guy come at me with an AK-47 and wait for him to shoot first? I said, because if you think that, you can court-martial me now.
That I swear, that hasn't changed. The politicians and their bullshit rules of engagement haven't changed a bit.
Cambodian border. We would push them to the border. They would go over on the other side, and they'd sit there and lob mortars over on us, but we couldn't fire back because they were over in Cambodia. I always thought if we ever crossed the border, there was going to be guys with black and white striped shirts running out the wood lines blowing their whistles saying, Americans offsides. That's how ridiculous to me it was.
Yeah.
You know, my dad was in the Philippines in World War II, and we were talking after I came back, and he's asking me what I thought about it. And I said, you know, Dad, looking back, every war that America fought was a territorial war, like you guys. Yeah. You would take an island, you would secure it, you'd move on. I said, this war of attrition, this body count stuff, these people don't care.
They don't care. Yeah.
I mean, they gladly lose 14-1.
Yeah.
And I said, like the Yadring.
Yeah.
2 weeks after I'm home, they're right back up there taking it again. Hamburger Hill. 10 times. Why not take it and secure it? You know,
it never made sense to me, and I don't know, maybe we just and even now, you know, even back then, because we have a good sized military, but we don't have the numbers to hit and secure and sit on places. And then when we do, like we did in Afghanistan, they would just continually hit it, and then the press would come in and say, well, we're losing Americans left and right, even though we need that camp to secure this area. The Taliban, Al Qaeda, whoever it was, whatever country we were in at that time, they would continually hit it. We'd lose Americans, and then the media would be like, well, why are you guys sitting here losing Americans? Well, we got to have a post there so they don't retake it. It's just it's a no-win situation for the person on the ground. And it's a media and political sensation for them to continually have story. And then it's a political statement when election comes and they use that as fodder for support or against whoever their political opponent is. It's horse shit. And I hate, but the guys on the ground, they're the ones that suffer though. And it pisses me off.
We were supposedly to go in to support the South Vietnamese army.
Now, give me your honest assessment of the South Vietnamese. I've heard stories. I just want to know what your assessment. That's what I thought. That's what I heard from him.
And for the listeners, he gave a thumbs down.
Hey, I tell you what, like I said, when we were deployed, we were to go over to back the South Vietnamese army. But once we got involved in it, all of a sudden it quit being South Vietnamese war; it became America's war. But you couldn't depend on those guys to back you at all.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, our interpreter, when we landed in the valley and they caught those two guys and interrogated them, well, we called him Mr. Vic, was the interpreter. And I never noticed it in the movie, but my oldest daughter did, because I was talking about it. And I said, the next set of choppers that came in when Mr. Vic found out how many was up on that Chupong masses, the next set of choppers came. He's boarded and left. And my oldest daughter, Tracy, said, well, Dad, that was in the movie. And sure enough, I ran it over there and there it was. But you could not depend. God's truth. And people look at me like I'm stupid. But I had more respect for we were fighting an admirable foe. When you see those guys coming through that napalm and airstrikes and artillery strikes and machine gun fire, that's dedication, man. That is dedication.
I say that.
I take my hat off to them.
I say the same thing. Ian has even heard me say it on the show before for the Taliban and even the terrorists we were fighting in Libya. I said, I admire those guys. They were tough they were hard as nails, and they were willing to die for their cause. And they didn't run away. Maybe when they were getting shot at, they ran away to regroup, but then they came back with more of their people. And I said, I have respect for them because they were doing and they stick to their morals. So even though I didn't agree with their morals, they stuck to them. And I
didn't believe their beliefs, but I got to take my hat off to them as far as being dedicated to their cause.
And they're hard. They're hardest woodpecker. I know. I completely agree, and I think a lot of guys that served in the GWAT, Global War on Terror, they would agree with you on that as well. I don't like them. I still would kill them, but damn it, I respect them because what they say they do. As far as attacking, not on the other stages, no, but as far as if we're gonna go kill them all, well, they're gonna come until they die. But
actually, when we worked with the Mountain Yards was actually better fighters than actually the South Vietnamese army was.
Talk about the people that don't serve Vietnam. Talk about the Mont Yards or who they were and what they did, and because I've heard and I've read stories of their heroism as well. But a lot of our listeners probably don't know what they were. Can you talk about a little bit about them?
Well, they were mainly kind of like the Aborigines in Australia. They lived up in the mountains and they had their own little village and little hooches and stuff, and they were still using crossbows and things like that. Wow! And they were very primitive, but I guarantee you could depend on them. And but I never forget the first time we landed up there by a village, and they had a field, and I thought that plant looks familiar. They had cotton planted up there outside this village.
Oh, wow.
I could not believe it. I thought of back in Oklahoma there for a minute.
Were they Cambodian or were they Vietnamese? What national? I never could tell me what nationality they were.
Mountain Yards is all I ever heard of, and stuff.
Yeah.
But they were pretty dependable. But was getting back to the deal there. When we landed, Crandall and them, they would land and slide on those sled deals, and they'd count 3 and you best be off. Well, when we landed, we knew it was a hot LZ because it was hitting the chopper as we came in. But when we landed, I had part of the squad on one side, Thompson had them on the other. Well, to my right was clear across the LZ, and then to my left was the nearest cover. And that's what you had for, the nearest cover. But what I didn't know at the time, we were running right into where they were coming down off the mountain. Yeah, and but for the biggest part of the day, we were pretty much pinned down. And when we left on K, Colonel Moore, he wanted to take every other mortar instead of every mortar squad taking their mortar, because he knew we was going to be up in remote areas. So one squad would take the mortar, and then the other mortar squad would backpack mortar ammo.
Okay.
So we'd have plenty of mortar ammo when we first got in that situation. So my squad, we were backpacking the mortar ammo. Well, like I said, the biggest part of the day, we were pinned down, and I kept trying to find out where the mortars were. Nobody had any idea. And finally, one of the sergeants said, well, I don't know where the mortars are, but across the LZ at that termite hill over there is the battalion CP. They'll know where they're at. Well, at the time, we had a couple of these little AE-1 Sky Raiders coming in, dropping butterfly mines. So I got my guys together, and I said, okay, here's the deal. The first plane that comes in and starts dropping their ordnance, I'll run across. And if I make it, when the next plane comes in, you all come. Or we can wait till the second plane comes in, and we'll all go together. And old James Coleman, who wound up in the foxhole with me, he said, we'll all go together. And I said, okay. So when the second one came in, we ran across, and thank the good Lord, we all made it unscathed. And
wow.
First guy I run into was Plumley. And I asked him where the mortars was, and he told me. So in a reunion in 95, Joe Galloway, the reporter that wound up with us, he said, I want to know something. He said, how in the hell did a guy in mortars wind up with an M60 machine gun? And I said, well, that evening, Sergeant Matos said that we were going to have to pull our own defensive perimeter, and for me to put 2 men to a foxhole. Excuse me, I can't remember now, just, that's 50 some years ago about the distance and stuff, but Coleman wanted to be in the foxhole with me. And so when he said we have to pull our own defensive perimeter, I said, with what? And that way I wound up with 245s when I gave Coleman an M16. Well, he gave me his 45. So that evening, the Delta Company that was a weapons platoon, and Sergeant Hewitt, they said they're working on getting some extra M60s. So that evening, he came around and brought around an M60 and some ammo, and they said, anybody here qualified with an M60? And so I'm messing with it, and I turned around Coleman, and I said, is Matos and Hewitt left yet? And he said, yeah, why? And I said, well, let's figure out how to load this damn thing. Excuse me. And he said, you mean you've never? I said, never touched one before, but I'm willing to learn. Well, when I told Galloway this, he said, well, you idiot. He said, don't you know the machine gunners and the RTOs are the first 2 things they go after?
Yeah.
Now you tell me.
No, she could. I still would have grabbed the machine gun too. I've done the same thing. And
Hey, you know what I wanted to ask you about the incident itself, and we could get into the details of it. And I mean, just reading about it, and I'd love for you to go into the full detail of everything that went on. But the way that you were outmanned and the fact that you survived it all. I mean, I got a chance years ago to interview Medal of Honor recipient Dakota Meyer, and the way he describes what he was in, he said, "I didn't think I was going to die. I knew I was going to die." Did you have that similar feeling?
I was just learning how to play the guitar, and I never ever crossed my mind about getting killed or dying. My main fear was losing this left hand where I couldn't chord my guitar.
oh wow,
I worried more about that and it worked out for me because I came back and started a band in Tulsa and played.
Did you really? Oh,
15, yeah. I had a band about 15 years in Tulsa and played several places around and stuff. But no, I can remember that second morning when all hell was breaking loose. That's when Charlie Company was really getting hit bad. And then Delta Company was here, and we were taking up the slack between Delta
sure.
and Alpha Company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I could hear the guys holler, they're coming around. They're coming from over in Delta Company. Well, Sergeant Niemeyer was in the foxhole kind of to the right of us. And he was in Delta Company, so they had got to that point there. And when they started hollering, they're coming around. Well, there's a big anthill out here to the right, and then that elephant grass. And I could see that elephant grass kind of going down, like somebody's crawling in it. And this sounds stupid, but I'm from Oklahoma, so I hollered, "Who's out there in them weeds?" And nobody said anything, so I told Coleman, I said, "Well, burn his ass." And Coleman shot once with that M16, and I told him put it on full automatic. Well, when we first got there at the M16, they were good at semi, but when you put them full automatic, they jam every time. And so, when he said that, it's jammed, I remember I looked at him, and then I looked back to the front, and the only way I can describe it is it looked like they were growing up out of that elephant grass.
Wow.
You've seen these time-lapse photography where the flower comes up. I mean, it didn't look like they were standing, it just looked like they were growing.
Wow.
Up out of the weeds there. And I don't know. Next thing I know, it was all quiet. And I remember, just before I got on the machine gun, I remember seeing something coming over. And I hollered grenade, and just about the time we were getting down into the foxhole there, that thing went off. Looked like it blew Niemeyer 10 feet in the air, but, I know it wasn't. But he wound up losing his leg over that. And then that's when it all broke loose. And I don't know, next thing I know, I'm standing up in that foxhole like some damned idiot with a 45 in each hand. And Sergeant Matos come over there, and he started going on, and I'm like,
Yeah.
But I guess you suppress a lot of stuff in your memory because when one of my old squad leaders, Steve Hansen, contacted me back when Moore and Galloway started talking about writing the book, and they wanted to do it from the ground up.
Okay.
And so I sat down and just wrote some stuff that I could remember and then talked on a tape. And then I sent a copy of my Silver Star orders along with it. when I got the book, well, I got a copy of it. The publishing company sent it out about 2 weeks before it was released nationally. And I was married to my girl's mother at that time. And we had a little back room there. It was kind of like a laundry room. And I had a little table there where I'd sometimes have my morning coffee. And Up's truck brought the book. And when I got it, I told her, I said, I'm going back out there in this back room and I'm going to sit down and read this book. And I said, I don't want you and the girls to come out there. And she said, why? You want to cry like a baby? I said, probably. Probably. But, man, I sat there that night and I read that whole 400 and some page book because it was just like every time I'd turn a page, some of that stuff started coming back.
I understand.
And I remember thinking one time during that deal, man, ain't they ever going to run out of people?
It's amazing because it doesn't ever seem like, I can only read. There was an instant that I was in that there was a book written too, and I can, and then they made a movie out of it. Like that's why I kind of feel like a kinship with you because you guys started this. You had the book, the movie. Well, I had something like mine too, and I can only once a year I force myself to watch the movie just so I can remember and read the book. And honestly, it gets harder.
I hate that movie.
Yeah. Oh, Sergeant, I got yours. So I got yours too.
Thank you for being there, buddy. Thank you.
No. You guys are you. I was just trying to. I'll be honest with you. Between that first and second attack at our place, I thought about you. I used to read. That's what made me want to go in the Army. Was I used to read the old Charlie Ranger books. That's what made me want to be a Ranger. The LRP guys, and then I read about the infantry guys and the Cav guys because the air assault. And I thought about you guys up on that roof, and I'm like, man, those guys would go out in the bush for weeks and weeks. And I said, shit, I got Snickers, I got a bottle of water, I got a lawn chair, I got plenty of ammo. I said, I got to quit being a bitch. I can handle this. So I thought about you guys. I was like, shit, I've been up here for like 5 hours, and I got Snickers bars everywhere. I'm good to go. So you guys, I think a lot of us always think about how it's perspective. We're like, man, we really don't have it that hard. Those guys had it hard. I got, even in the winter and when it's cold, I got Gore-Tex and I got all this warm shit I can wear. You guys didn't have nothing. I mean, I
always said if I had to fight for my country, I was glad it was where it was and not Korea. I couldn't handle the cold.
People don't understand. The cold will make you the biggest sniveling bitch out of it. Man, that cold will, the heat, I can drink water. I can hydrate, but I can't get my feeling in my fingers and my toes to come back when they're freezing. But I said, I agree. I completely agree.
I took my basic down at what we affectionately called Fort Pugh, Louisiana.
Oh, you did?
Down at Fort Polk.
Yeah. No. It's still there. They're still doing the Op 4 stuff's always going on there. Oh my gosh.
Well, I remember during our first day training, they would always show these real actual footage from Korea where those guys get frostbite on their toes and they just grab hold and just pull all the toes off their feet and stuff. And I thought, man, I don't think I could ever handle that.
And now I think back to watching you guys when I go, man, I don't think I want to be out there for 3-4 weeks in that fucking mud and water and mosquito. I said, I don't think I could handle that. I'm liking this desert out here. I like the dry heat. I don't need that. All that.
Well, one thing about it, when you got a foxhole and it comes one of them big rains at night and stuff, and everybody said, well, boy, wasn't that cold? And I said, yeah, but after a while, your body warms it up a little. It
ain't just your body. You're pissing in it too. I know you are. Man,
hey, you know what I'm wondering when you're talking about getting the Silver Star, the book being made, the movie being made, and then more recently the Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame. I'm just wondering from your perspective, we often hear these stories about Vietnam veterans coming back, getting disrespected, and like the worst cases getting spit on, that type of thing. I don't know what you experienced, but was it some type of redemption for you as a Vietnam veteran to see you guys glamorized for your heroism rather than disrespected by the public and the media.
Honored as you should be. Yeah.
Well, when I first came back, a lot of people didn't know I'd even been in Vietnam, much less been a Silver Star recipient. And
wow.
When it kind of came out and stuff, well, hell, Parish, I didn't know you did all that. And I said, no, and I said, you weren't there, so you wouldn't know what I'd be talking about anyway. That's the way my dad was. That, I knew he was from World War II, but I never would ever get him to talk to me about it until after I came back from Vietnam. And then he sat down and discussed some of the things that happened to him. And I said, Dad, you never ever wanted to talk to me about it before. And he said, I know, but you understand now.
Yeah.
And so, but my biggest thing is these damn wannabes. All of a sudden now, here's all these guys, wearing all them, camouflage jackets and all this stuff and everything. And then he'll come to find out, they wasn't even in the military,
Yeah.
And I just, matter of fact, I bought that book, Stolen Valor. Yeah, and read that. But, sometimes I'll be in the bar, them old boy be up there just blowing in and going, and all that stuff and everything. And then I get to questioning him on stuff. And, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah.
Hey,
but,
do you encounter a lot of it? Do you encounter a lot of stolen valor?
Oh, not so much anymore. But, matter of fact, when me and the girl's mom was married, they started out, and I guess it was when Platoon came out.
Okay.
The movie Platoon.
Yep.
Now, I went to see that with my dad and my ex-brother-in-law, and I guarantee you, if I hadn't been I would have got up and walked out of it. Because now, I understand this happened later on, but when I was in Vietnam, you didn't see the wanton killing of villagers, the insubordination, and, well, for one thing, Hal Moore wouldn't have put up with no damn insubordination,
Yeah.
And, but Hal was, he was a type of leader that he didn't demand respect, he earned it.
Right.
And
he led from the front. I mean, that's how leaders should do. He did the true infantry, led the way. That's from what I read.
Well, that's what he tells these future commanders. He said, I went to a deal down at Fort Hood where he spoke to some officers down there. And he said, gentlemen, you cannot command your troops in a helicopter 2,000 feet above them. Said you have to set foot on that ground. You have to get the feel of the terrain. You have to learn to anticipate what your enemy's going to do. And you can't do that.
Yeah.
You got to be down there on the ground with your boys. And to him, we were all his sons. And the deal about leaving nobody behind, it didn't happen like the movie did. We were at a command reveille one morning when we found out we were going, and he got up and he, did his little deal that he did at command reveille, and then he said, "And gentlemen, I want to make an agreement with you right now." He said, "I promise you that, dead, live, wounded, I will leave no one behind. But I'll ask you this: if I go down, I ask you bring me home." So that was kind of an agreement, you might say, between him and us.
If that don't motivate the hell out you before you start to go in a battle, I don't know. I don't know. Wow.
Joe Galloway used to get me invited to a lot of things. Admiral Nimitz deal, we did a deal down there for a fundraiser at Fredericksburg, Texas. he got me invited up to the Eisenhower Museum and Library up at Abilene, Kansas, to a deal. Excuse me. And the talk up there at Abilene, I was sitting on the front row, and Joe looked down at me and he said, and well, everybody calls me Will. And he said, Will knows what I'm talking about. He said, if that old man raised that old bony finger and say, follow me, boys, he said, every one of us would fall in right behind him. And that's the honest God's truth, you know.
And
we would have followed him.
And people, leaders, man, they need to study how more. They need to Colonel Moore, General Moore. I mean, I had a good battalion commander. I had Colonel McChrystal, who's General McChrystal now, but I still, Hal Moore, I think still sets. And sorry, General McChrystal, I know you were a tremendous commander too for me when I got in, but I still think Colonel Moore, just from what I've read, of course I've never served, or I'd be, I wouldn't look as good as you, Sergeant, if I served with Colonel Moore. He's a good looking guy, guys. I'm just saying this, he is, but I still see he's the standard. He really is the standard. And whether the movie sensationalized him or not, I read the book and reading his backstory. The books don't. And I saw a guy that he would never ask you to do anything that he wouldn't be willing to do himself. And that's that. I don't think our commanders have that in them on the upper echelon levels. Maybe at the captain, the 03, 04, even maybe the 05 levels. But when you get up to 06 and above that, I don't think the military has those kind of commanders in maybe in the special operations community. But I don't know what you're feeling on that of the current state. I want to get your feeling, because you guys, we still should serve like y'all did. You guys served. Yeah. You were hardcore, and you did it without any thanks at all.
Sorry, boys, but I can't have much respect for a commander in chief that would pull out and leave a ton of equipment behind.
Yeah.
That made absolutely ridiculous sense to me.
You learn as a private how if you have to disengage, that you don't leave you don't leave equipment behind that can be, and especially.
Well, that's what I said the other day when they was talking about, he's going to send a bunch over there to Ukraine. I said, well, I guess he's going to go off down and leave Russia a bunch of.
Yeah, we spoke about that during the intro before we brought you on. Do you, as someone who has the experience, do you see any parallels between the withdrawal from Vietnam and the withdrawal from Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Well, I was glad to see bringing troop, but you don't leave that stuff behind for the enemy to use against you later on. And that's ridiculous. And
with the technology and the Chinese and the Russians and Iranian, they're not dumb. They can reverse engineer. That's what killed. And I say it when I talk to people too. I said, in Libya, we had the advantage of night vision. And that was in 2012. I said, I don't know if we have that advantage anymore, because we left. People realize that how awful, criminal that is to do that.
I guarantee if I'd have left it behind, I'd have booby trapped it.
Exactly. That's what you do. You booby trap it, or you take it apart and you destroy it. You take that piece out they can't replicate. And from what I understand, again, I wasn't there, but from what I understand, and you're seeing a Black Hawk go by in the air with the Taliban flying it, I don't think they booby trapped it or they took pieces out. And that is a huge force multiplier that we lost, a huge advantage. And to me, that's criminal. That's going, put yourself in Leavenworth for that kind of act, Commander.
Well, I'll tell you, getting back to more though, I remember down there at Benning, him getting so upset because when we found out we were going, they had a cutoff date. Okay. If your ETS was October the 30th or above that, they transferred you out. And here, Moore saying, here we're going into a battle situation under strength, and the new people we're getting has absolutely no training in this helicopter concept. And he said, but he said, since he didn't declare the national emergency and extend the the ETSs, but we had a guy, his ETS was October the 31st. We left Benning on Continental Trailway buses, went to Charleston, South Carolina, got on ship, went down, went through the Panama Canal up to Long Beach. That took 10 days. And then we stayed the night at Long Beach. And then we took off, and 20 days later, when we landed at Quin Yon, and then they took us up to Ankh. The next morning, they came and got this kid at EPS was the first and sent him to Saigon to rotate back home.
So what, he did the whole trip, and he got there and he said, "Okay, your ETS date's fault," and they got him home. So I remember that was in the movie and the book, and I was going to ask you, was that so? You lost your most experienced men before you went into battle. And again, politicians, they don't care. They don't see these things. And if you're the commander in chief, you have to see these things. SecDef, you have to see. They don't. It goes on for years. That's what I told Ian. All these mistakes, they're just going to keep making them because we keep doing it because they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah. And what was spooky, the morning that we landed in the Yad Rang, I had 14 days left going to Army. I had a good buddy that was killed the second day.
Wow.
The day he was killed, he only had 7 days left going to Army.
Wow.
And, but, I tell you, I watched the documentary and Moore said, he said, most of my guys had, 14 days left going to Army and were draftees and had stuff. But he said, he said, to a man, none of them ever backed down.
Yeah. And
I thought, well, when you're surrounded, you ain't got no place to back down. I found, and I think a lot of guys that serve a lot of you feel like your number's up but you can't live like your number's up. If you live like you're going to die, you're going to die.
Yeah. You can't think about that. You just got to put it out of your head and just, okay, here's the day. Let's just keep going. I didn't even think about that. You guys just getting to places, we jump on a plane now, and then we get in country. You guys, I forgot how you had to, it was a dang mission in itself just for you guys to get country. I mean, on a boat.
Well, they sent the whole division.
Wow.
At the time. And, I can't remember now, but it seemed like we spent a month, getting stuff together and getting it all. And I remember when we spent a lot of time at our PT course with the cargo net, practicing, going down the cargo net, like the old World War II disembarkments from the ship. And but when we got to the harbor there at Quin Yon, they just lowered this ladder beside the ship. We went down, went into those LSTs. Well, we're sitting there, and I got a duffel bag on my lap, and we're chugging along. And in my mind, I keep seeing all these old John Wayne beachhead movies, and I'm thinking, man, and about that time, you feel that thing, you hit the ground and chug, 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 and then that front drops down, and they're hollering, move it, move it, move it. And man, I run out there. First thing I saw was this big Connex container and two guys on top of it sitting there playing cards. And that was my but I, people ask sometimes the dumbest questions, that they'll tell me, well, were you scared? Do I look like I'm an idiot? Yeah, I'm scared. Anybody?
Well, I think I think sometimes because of movies and because of books, people look at, both of you guys, as being superhuman.
That dude is superhuman. I just fed off him. I just wanted to feed off him, man. But I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm just me, and like I said, I was there just to pull my 2 years and get out. But like I said, after going through that, I can't say enough about, and anything I can do now to help in any way that I can, or just, I love to go to schools and talk to the kids and try to, have a little respect for these military people and honor your country. I'll admit, I voted for Carter. And the first damn thing he did was pardon them draft dodgers that went to Canada. And I was so pissed. And, and at the time I was married to my second wife, and she was one of these bleeding hearts. And, well, don't you think they've got families they'd like to come home to? I said, yeah, I got a lot of buddies that would like to come home to their families, but they ain't no way they're going to do it. I said, you're a bleeding heart. Tell you what, if they want to come back, I think they should do something to pull some kind of service for their country. Well, a lot of people don't want to do the military. I said, Peace Corps.
Yeah.
Anything. Make them do something, to do something for the country that they live in.
Work at the VA hospital, help out, be a VA rep, do something
for 2 years,
exactly.
It didn't get to be the military, just do something. And I'd like to see them bring the draft back in.
Well, if morale keeps dropping, they might. And it's for me, and I got a 17-year-old boy. Granted, he wants to work with the CIA, which is fine. That's the first time, and that's fine. But which is fine with me. But I do think there should be some form of service after high school or even college, 2 years. Just like I think Israel does it with their. It doesn't have. It doesn't have to be in the military, but it can be something.
With them, it is.
But it is military. But I said it's something for the country, whether it's military or, like you're right, Peace Corps or working some form of service that you're supporting the military. I agree. I completely agree. Yeah. Patriot.
Well,
go ahead, Sergeant. Go ahead. I keep cutting you off, Sergeant. You go ahead.
No, and I was cutting you off there. What were you saying?
Go ahead, Sergeant.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to ask when you said that, you want to do everything in your power to help guys out there. This is obviously a tragic topic to talk about, but I want to talk about it. So many guys from your era still to this day are committing suicide. And I feel like a lot of guys from Vietnam, as I said earlier, are not as likely to go to a therapist or even go out there in the public and share their story. I mean, what do you think we could do to stop this? Because it's an epidemic.
Yeah, it is. I had a VA rep that lived in Bristow, and for 6 years, he kept trying to get me to go be tested for PTSD. And I kept saying, Jerry, there's nothing wrong with me, and he said, yeah, there is. Well, I can tell when I talk to you. And so for 6 years, he was after me back now. I said, I don't want to talk to no damn psychiatrist, And so then he got my dad on my case about it and said, your boy seems to think this is some kind of a present, but this is something that he earned. And he said, and I've got guys that, got on drugs while they was in the military. And he said, and my combat veterans, I can't hardly get nothing done for them. And so I remember I came out of the barbershop one Saturday and I run into him and he started in. I said, Jerry, if I agree to go talk to this guy, will you get off my back about this? Well, I'm drawing 100% now. And I said I wish that, I would went. But I remember I went and talked to this guy, and I was in there about an hour and 15 minutes with him. When I come out, Jerry was all excited. And I said, well, you just like a kid with a new toy at Christmas. He said, if they think you're faking it, they'll kick you out in about 10, 15 minutes. And he said, you was in there over an hour.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it obviously talking about it has helped you. I mean, you seem as normal as you can be. Anybody that wants to go into run a gunfire, though, you're always going to be a little. I get it. I'm a little abnormal too. We're always going to be a little abnormal. Yeah. But I was the same way. I went and finally talked to a counselor, and it helped me. It did help me, and now I talk about to people as well. So I agree. I think talking about it does help.
Do you think guys from your era in some way are ashamed maybe because we've had Jim West on the podcast. He's not from your era, but he did speak about that for years. And in his words, he says, like, I went to my man cave. I didn't communicate with anybody. I just he wasn't, his son was murdered. His other son, he wasn't in touch with, I think, for a little bit. And he says in his words, he was like, I was ashamed of all these things I should have been proud of. And now he's out there, he's writing books, he's talking about his service. Do you think some guys from the Vietnam generation are in some way ashamed when they should be out there and, like you said, speaking at high schools, telling their story, writing books?
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. But to tell you one thing that really helped me is when General Moore first contacted me about doing the book, he told me about the First Cav Association.
Sure.
I didn't have any idea about it or anything. And he said, you need to join the First Cav Association. And my dad was in the First Cav in World War II, so I got him to join. And the first reunion I ever went to was down at Fort Hood, and went down there in 93. And they were several of the guys that I went through the battle with that were that. And that, I had somebody
Sure.
I could put my arms around and talk to and feel that comradeship,
Yeah.
and that really, because I could open up, I could, instead of just keeping it all inside, I had somebody, same way when they did the MOOC. Well, matter of fact, this shirt I've got on, the post commander made these shirts for us, and they had a pre-screening of the movie at Fort Hood. And when I watched the movie, I was with about probably 40, 45 of the guys that I went through it with. And, some things I thought, Hollywood hoopla. And, but when it came out, was released about 2 weeks later nationally, my brother and my oldest daughter went with me to see it in Tulsa, and of course they gave me a big movie poster and the whole 9 yards. But after the movie was over, our CBS affiliate here in Tulsa did an interview with me in the 10 o'clock news, and the little girl that interviewed me, she said, I know you've seen the movie before, but was it any different this time? And I said, yeah. I said, it kind of got to me more this time because it was like going through it again, only my daughter was with me.
Oh, yeah.
And so that bothered me a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Bit more, and but one of the movies that really got to me was one Don Johnson made called Ceasefire.
Oh.
And it was about the guys that were already back home and all the trouble they were going through. And I guess I related so much to it was because in the movie he was the first Cav vet, and it got to me.
And it was this, hey Sergeant, was this before you went and talked to the counselor, or was this after you went and talked to the counselor that you saw it and it was getting you? Was it before?
Okay. Yeah, and because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, because I was drinking,
yeah,
and but hey, I'm just having a good time, but seeing that movie, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, hell, that's me.
Wow,
that's me.
Yeah.
Everything he's doing in this movie is, But anyway, I actually broke down at the end of the movie, and I can watch it now, but for a long time I wouldn't watch it again. I just.
Yeah, it's understandable. It's hard to go back and dig deep into yourself and see that type of thing. Yeah, you know what I wanted to ask you about? It was for those who don't know. I mean, your inclusion into the Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame was not that long ago. This, if you look it up, this was 6 years ago. What was it like getting inducted into there? How did that feel?
Quite an honor. I tell you, it. Years ago, a friend of mine was in the Guards, and they had a deal doing the Order of the St. Maurice.
Yep. I know what that is. Yep.
And he got me knighted.
Did you? You got the medal? I mean, that's a pretty high honor. That's the one that Max Mullen, that's Ranger Max.
Oh,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's
Kim is grabbing it.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Hey, what's
How are you
going
doing?
on? But that's an awesome medal. Congratulations. Yeah. Oh,
That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I went to a reunion in '95, and General Moore, he said, "You wear that tomorrow when you up on the." They elected me to represent everybody up on the stand up in front of the wall, and he said, "You wear that tomorrow." And he said, "You know what that is?" I don't really know, but I said, he said, "Well, that's the saint of the infantry."
Infantry, yeah.
Saint Marie, but I remember Tom Mancino. He was the commander for the 45th Division in Afghanistan.
Yep.
Afghanistan.
Is Afghanistan.
But, yeah. Well, anyway, I remember he had this big robe and hood on and had that non-kneel down there. And I don't know if you ever seen the movie King Ralph.
Yeah. King Ralph.
The guy, when they want to knight him, he does that.
Because I just coming.
But they anyway, they opened up a military history museum in Broken Arrow.
Okay.
And General Mancino remembered me, so they've got a display on me now. They've even built a box like my Foxhole, and went to Texas, got an M60, and got a whole deal on me, and had me do an interview. And now one of those little deals there that is continuously running, there by my display. So they've got quite a display on me. Well, he's the one that got me into the Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame. Took him about 3 years, but he finally got me in there. And we went down to Oklahoma City and, spent the night and had a banquet and all that good stuff. And but that put me back with old Rick Rescorla. Rick's in the Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame too. And of course, he got killed when that second tower went down, and he was quite a guy. But getting back to the movie, probably out of all the movie was actually about 5 basic people. Moore, Plumley, Galloway,
Sergeant Savage,
Lieutenant Jagan, and Bruce Crandall.
Crandall, yep.
Yeah, but it was hard for me to relate. Now, Jagan was in my company, Charlie Company.
Okay.
But it was hard to visualize this Chris Klein playing him because the real Jagan was kind of redheaded and freckle-faced. But anyway, out of all of them that really got their character pretty close to what they was old Sam Elliott when he played.
Is that what? That's all I heard. Was Plumley that hard? He was that hard ass, huh?
Well, I tell you, Sam Elliott, they started filming down at Fort Benning. Well, he came and spent 2 weeks with Plumley before they ever started filming, because he said when he plays a real person, he kind of likes to get the feel of them.
Yeah.
And Basil carried this big Bowie knife during the battle. So Sam asked him if he could use it in the movie, and Basil said, yeah. And so every year they have a 1st Battalion 7th Cav reunion, and in 2008 I went down there. It was Benning, and my brother went with me, and we came in, and Basil was sitting there. My brother said, well, is Sam Elliott going to show up? Well, Sam showed up, some of them, and Basil said, well, he said, I just talked to him a couple of days ago and said his mother's not doing too good, so he's not going to be able to come this year. My brother said, well, you mean you have his phone number? Basil said, well, hell, I got his cell phone number. But when Basil died in 2010, Sam Elliott came and escorted Plumley's daughter and granddaughter to the services, and he also delivered the eulogy.
Wow. Yeah, that's
so he stayed pretty close.
See, not
but he's pretty congenial. He's pretty congenial, and I got to meet Barry Pepper, who played Joe Galloway.
Yep.
And he's a pretty nice guy, but you know, like I said, some of the stuff, like the charge up the hill, that didn't really happen.
That didn't because at the end of the movie, the charge up the hill.
Yeah. Hey, we were trying to stop charges because we knew if we lost that LZ, we were none of us go out of there.
Did they just and we're going a little long. I'm sorry, Sergeant. But I do have one more thing because I wanted to get to that. I'm glad you led. Oh, I appreciate it. How then? And that's what how did it end? I mean, that day, did they just stop attacking, or did you just kill them all, or I mean, how did it end?
Well, the third morning we were starting to get some sporadic sniper fire, mostly. And Hal Moore called in a couple of those jets, and I remember they had them 20 millimeter Gatling.
Yeah.
Sound like a high impact wrench.
Yeah,
you know. And he told everybody to get down, and they flew in treetop level, just chewed the top of those trees. Well, in the meantime, then the 2nd and 7th came up. You know, had marched up through the woods, and I think a unit of the 1st and the 5th was with them.
Wow.
And they came up, and they're the ones that really got chewed up the next day because their battalion commander, Colonel McDade, he had never had a battlefield command, and he wasn't Hal Moore. He didn't know, when they got hit, he didn't know what to do.
Wow, man.
And those guys got chewed up pretty good.
It says a lot for your command and experience, but wow, that's amazing. Wow, Sergeant, you're amazing, brother. You are.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one last question, if it's okay.
No, go ahead. No, go hit it.
No, because we often talk about faith on the podcast, you know, and as Chris said earlier, and Chris always talks about how faith got him through what he went through in Benghazi, and I'm just wondering, I mean, for that action that you were awarded the Silver Star once again, where you were being approached by 100 of the enemy, you had the machine gun and then shooting 245s, and which is incredible.
Yeah.
The fact that you survived it, the fact that you're still here with us today, do you credit any type of faith? What got you through that? What made you survive that?
I had 2 grandmothers, and a mother was praying awful hard for me, and I think that's probably what did it. And you know, and I guess the good Lord thought I still had a mission to do with that.
That's what you know, and that's what I tell people. Like God loves the damned. He does. God looks down on us and goes, well, I guess you get a chance. Yeah.
I got a question for you.
All right, Sergeant, bring it on.
I tell you, for years and years, I felt so damn guilty that I come through that and didn't get a scratch when people around me were getting killed and wounded. And I said one time, I don't know, maybe if I'd have got wounded, I'd felt better about it. But for years, I carried a guilt trip about making it through it. And everybody said, well, you know, even that psychiatrist, he said, you were meant to get through it.
And that's the thing is you're telling your story now. If you're asking me how I deal with it, you know, I think it was more of not just that night. I'd been deploying for 10 years when Benghazi happened. I've been 10 years. I've been going back and forth, and you know, I've been injured, but nothing serious, and I've been close, but I never thought about it because I figured if I thought about it, it was going to happen. It's like, well, I'm not going to think about it. If it happens, it happens. But I don't want to think, well, is it my time? Because like I said before, then it's going to be my time. Mm-hmm. What bothered me is Sean Smith, the IT guy that died that night in Libya. Mm-hmm. What bothered me is when I got back home, and it wasn't Roan or Bub. They died, but they were SEALs. They've been deploying for years. I accepted their death because just like I think they would have accepted mine. But it was Sean that bothered me because he'd never been over 2 days. He'd been 2 days. He's there. He never seen, and I've been like 10 years and 2 days. He's dead. That I couldn't wrap my mind around that. That bothered me. And then the Roan's thing a little bit because Roan had just had a baby boy before he and that bothered me a bit. But how I got through it, I talked to a counselor. I started talking to a counselor, but to quell it, I was drinking. Like when you said the drinking, that's what I was doing. I was drinking. Yep. I was drinking and I was having a good time. I had divorced my wife that I reconciled with. I was living.
Well, I've had 3 wives.
I was a slave to my vices, and I let it be that way so I didn't have to think about it. And until go ahead, Sergeant. But
I know you're running out of time, but I just had one quick thing.
No, you got time. No, we're gonna go long. I want to respect your time. You go ahead.
I remember a few years ago when I was still married to her mother, they was having, it was like Platoon kind of started this, and they were having a big to-do on HBO about welcome home Vietnam veterans. And guess who the MC was? Peter Fonda.
I was going to say Jane Fonda. Sir, what?
No, Peter Fonda, though. And when it came on, I changed channels, and my wife said, "You're not going to watch that?" And I said, "Hell no." And she said, "Well, it was a welcome home Vietnam veteran." I said, "Them some bitches about 25 years too late welcome me. I don't need their damn welcome."
And that's why what helped me with accept the deaths of the people why I didn't is that's why I go out and talk. I want to honor those guys. I don't talk about me. I talk the same as you. Yeah. I talk about the heroes that I served with. They're the heroes. I was blessed to be with them and talk. And I tell their stories from my eyes because I was there. So I was able to see it. And to me, that's me helping honor, and it helps. It does help. I ain't gonna say it doesn't help me. It does help me. It helps me accept it and understand it. Well, maybe this is what I'm here for: is to tell people how great they were, and not me.
Sometimes I used to belong CompuServe to a military form, and I'd never heard of alerts until I come back, and then all of a sudden, everybody on this I was in the alert.
Oh, were they lying? No, was everybody? Because
well, anyway, some guy was on there, and he was one of these guys that was in supplies, and stuff, and they started calling him an REFMF, REMF.
Yeah, he's a REF. He's a rear echelon motherfucker.
Rear echelon motherfucker. And this guy's supposed to be clerk, was giving him hell, and all that. And I finally got on there and I said, "Well, pardon me for jumping in here," but I said, that young man that was supplying those, sending those supplies up there and stuff, I want to thank him right now, because if he wasn't doing his job, I wouldn't be here right now. And I said, this thing is kind of like a chain. It's only as strong as its weakest link.
Yeah.
And I said, and if that man's job was to do supplies and he was doing his job, then I thank God he was there doing his job.
Yep.
Because it just takes everybody doing their job to make it a success.
There's always been that controversy. No, there's always been that controversy, of guys either embellishing what they did or, that they weren't really there. The more recent one I could think of is, and you probably remember when that Connecticut Congressman Richard Blumenthal, when he was running and said he was a Vietnam era. Well, he said at first he was a Vietnam veteran, and then he had to change. I was a Vietnam era veteran because he didn't serve in Vietnam. I'm sure that does piss off guys like yourself.
Well, but it just makes me mad because, like I said, so the guy's job was being in supplies. So he wasn't out there in the bush. But if he quit doing his job, I ain't going to be
Yep. I'm not getting my gear. I'm not getting my. I tell everybody my favorite guys who you made friends with when you got to the unit is you made friends with the cook and you made friends with the supply guy. Those are your two best friends. So if you needed something, I could walk in and say, "Hey, Sergeant, I need some more Nomex gloves. Hey, Sergeant, I need some more boots. I got you." And if you didn't make friends with them, you weren't getting your shit. And then
wasn't bad to have a medic either.
Yeah, medics are always. Yeah, I gotta say those are the top three. And you gotta love Doc. Always gotta love Doc. Doc take care.
Yeah, and guys should be proud of what they did. I mean, we have guys who have done all different types of things on this podcast, like L. Christian Bustler, for example. Took pride.
He was
in what he had to do in mortuary affairs,
Marine mortuary services. He was amazing.
And the simple act of how he ironed that flag and how he honored guys who died. And he's not writing a book embellishing what he did. People want to hear those stories. So I don't think there's any reason to embellish if you were there and you did something.
Man,
one thing that with me is, sometimes when I speak and stuff, and they want me to bring my stuff, and I'll have that copy of that Silver Star Order, and they'll want me to read it. Well, that bothers me.
Yeah.
I said, one of you guys can read it. Well, no, we want you. Well, that sounds like I'm being braggadocious to me, and I have trouble reading stuff about myself.
That's it. That's because you are the real deal there, Sergeant. You're humble about it. You have humility. God's humbled you a bit too. I'm sure God humbles all of us when we get too proud. But what you're saying there, because I feel the same thing. I don't like reading anything about myself. I don't like watching. I don't. But that's because you're the real deal. I'm not saying I'm the real deal at all. I know I can't even hold Sergeant Willard's jockstrap there, but I tell you what, he's the real deal.
I wouldn't Sergeant. I'm just a Speedy Ford.
Oh, you've earned that rank now to me. I don't care. I'm gonna call you Sergeant regardless.
I'd rather talk about my buddies that they, like I said, they done me good too,
Yeah.
I just, I really can't think of anybody in our whole damn battalion that I would have anything. Well,
there's always one guy. There's always one guy.
Well, when Moore took over the battalion command down there at Fort Benning, the 3 light mortars and a 4.2 mortar platoon and Riccom platoon made up the Delta Company.
Okay.
Well, when Moore took over, he wanted the 3 light mortars to go out to the line companies. So one went to Alpha, one Bravo, and mine, we went to Charlie. Well, when we mortar guys went to the line companies, we was kind of like the redheaded stepchild. And so they gave us this lieutenant. I won't mention his name because I remember that first reunion I went to, I was talking to Dennis Dill, who was second lieutenant in Bravo, and I mentioned this lieutenant's name, and he said, "Oh, for God's sakes, Parish, whatever you do, don't mention that name in front of the old man." I said, well, he's about the same opinion as I was, but I had a squad leader named Herman Hostetler, and Herman was the type of squad leader. If we had one of them bad details, he'd say, "Guys, I know it's bad, but," and he'd jump in and help you. And he'd come and ask you, if you'd do something for him. And of course but anyway, this lieutenant was fresh out of ROTC, and he had one of them fresh fish haircuts. And he told everybody when we was going to go to Vietnam, we was all going to have haircuts like him.
Oh,
I said, no, I've got 8 months left going Army. Colonel Moore said as long as we had white sidewalls, we could have 3 inches on top. Well, make a long story short, we're on ship going over. Moore almost said tonight. More he rode me about it. The more I let my hair grow, and one day Hostetler came up and said, "Would you do me a favor and get your hair cut so he'll get off my back about it?" And I said, "Sure, Sarge." And he said, "Now, you don't have to get it like his, just get it like Moore said." I'm on the ship, and And that's when we had them baseball caps. And I'm brushing hair off my neck. And he comes up behind me, and I turned around, and he said, "Thought I told you to get a haircut." And I said, "Jesus Christ, man, I just come from getting a haircut." And he reached up and grabbed my cap off my head. Oh, that made me mad. And then he ruffled my hair. And he said, "It's not like mine." I said, "No, it ain't going to be like yours either." I said, "Now, Colonel Moore's down there in the stateroom. If you want to go down and have him inspect my haircut, let's go." He said, "We don't have to bother the colonel."
Yeah.
And so then he said, "How old are you, Parish?" I said, "I'm 24. He said, "Well, I'm only 22. You don't like taking orders from a man younger than you, do you?" I said, "I wouldn't give a damn if he was 10 years old. If I thought he was a man, I'd take orders from him." He said, "Well, now you got to respect me." And I said, "As a man, no, I don't. All I got to respect some little gold bars up on your shoulder." I said, "If you was any type of a man, you'd strip that blouse and we'd step back here on the fantail and you'd find out who the best man is." So he left. He said, "Well, we're not going." I said, "You know what? You don't get out of my face, I'm going to deck your ass right here." So he left. And Hostetler came up a little bit later and was kind of laughing. He said, "Heard you had a little trouble with Lieutenant, so." "Yeah, a little bit." And he said, "Well," he told me, he said, "Parish said if I didn't leave him alone, he's going to deck my ass." And I told him, "Well, sir, you better leave him alone." We would go out on what they call the picket line, which was about 6 miles out from our base camp. And we'd have sea rats in the morning and for lunch.
Yeah.
Then they'd bring out hot chow in the evening. And our company XO and their fly sergeant would bring it out. Well, one day flying back, 2 choppers flew together and killed everybody on both choppers. So Hostetler came up to me and he said, "I'm going to put in for that supply sergeant job." He said, "Because I can't take Lieutenant so-and-so any longer." And I said, "Hell, Sarge, you're not deserting us, are you?" "No," but he said, "Thompson's going to be your new squad leader, and I've already told him that you're my assistant to keep you as assistant." And so anyway, Hostetler got the supply sergeant job, and he was in the company CP when it got overrun, got killed. So
Wow.
I just and plus this lieutenant wasn't with us up there during the battle. He was down at Saigon for a memorial service for our XO. So he wasn't even there. I have no use for the man.
Well, you know what, and that's I think the Lord works in mysterious ways. He probably would have been a hinderment. Even I'm sorry, and I know we're going long too, man.
This is good. This is great.
But we, and why I'm saying this is because even in Libya, we had a guy there that I don't think would have been an asset to us on our team. And I know him, and what he was cheating on his wife, and she caught him when he was overseas with us, and he got this phone call, and I'm not going to go into who it was, but anyway, he had to take emergency leave back home because his wife was going to leave him, even though it was his fault. But I looked at that now, and I look back at it, I'm like, you know what? Honestly, he was kind of selfish, really kind of looked out for himself. I think it was better that he wasn't there that night, even though he could shoot. He was a good fighter. But even when we did any sort of training, the team that was there would do stuff as a team. He would go doing his own little firefight by himself. I'm like, dude, what? You got to get over here. We're stronger as a team. I think the Lord works in mysterious ways, and the people that didn't need to be there, in your case and in my case, weren't there because they would have been more of a hindrance than a help.
Yeah, one good thing about him not being there, though, because all of our officers in Charlie Company were either killed or wounded, and he would have been wound up as the company commander, and he didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground.
I'm telling you, God says, hey, he may have saved him. He's like, man, he would have killed more people.
Like old Justin Wilson, the Cajun comedian, said one time, said he's down there in camp during World War II, and they put this guy in charge of him and said, woo, he was bad. And he said, I said, well, how come he put us in charge, him in charge of us? I said, well, he had ROTC. And he said, he must have had it pretty damn bad.
Oh, for fuck. This has been awesome, man. It's been awesome. And I'm gonna keep calling you Sergeant, so don't correct me there. You just let me get you promoted.
I've seen your movie, and buddy, I tell you what, I think you guys got screwed. To be honest, I can't understand why you couldn't get any help.
It was politics.
Well, I knew.
The politics you guys had when you were in, ain't a damn thing changed. It's politics when we were in it. So it's politics, man. It's politicians. I should say.
To make you feel better, I didn't vote for any of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, when they left you guys hung out to dry, I said, them people ain't got no business being commander in chief.
No, and we ain't. We'll have to have you on. We want to talk about old commanders in chief again, and I'm sure we could probably go 2 hours talking about those shit shows.
But thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah,
and I see Kim back there. Thank you so much for setting this up. I really appreciate it.
Who's that? Who's that back there? Hey, what's going on? I can't see your face. What's going on? Hey, arrange lead the way, sir. Hey, what is she coming? What'd you do? I thought you said you quit all that drinking and stuff. She coming to arrest you? What's going on?
Well, I tell you what, I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for her. I said I've got a 7-year-old granddaughter that can do more on computers and iPads than I ever.
No worries. These things are a pain in the ass. It's better ignorance is truly bliss when it comes to technology.
It's my honor to get to meet you guys and get to visit with you, and I thank you for having me.
No, absolutely, and hope we didn't take too much of your time, Kim. Really appreciate it. And for the audience, once again, Willard F. Parish, Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame recipient, and as we said, awarded the Silver Star for Valor. And I'll get his rank and all that correct for the audience. As I said earlier, U.S. Army combat veteran of Vietnam, serving as a Specialist 4 with Company C, 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry, 1st Cavalry Division. And yeah, we really, really appreciate you coming on. This has been an honor, and we don't get to speak to a Vietnam era guy.
Well, thanks, brother. And when I get down to Kiefer, I teach at Eddie's place every once in a while, firearms.
Love to meet you.
Yeah, I'll go eat lunch with Eddie after this. Cool. Oh, is that where you're headed to?
Yeah, I'm at work right now, but we're gonna go eat with Eddie after this.
Well, yeah. Tell that no-neck son of a bitch I said hi. Tell him. All right. God bless you guys.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline Podcast. But we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoparanto.net. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.